Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Paragoner, and welcome to my review of Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. So this game takes place in the Middle-earth universe in between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and in this game you play as Troy Baker, or Talion, which is the character's name. So this game has a really cool opening to its story and combat and, well, of course just the game itself. So Talion, who is a ranger at the Black Gate, which if you don't know, that's the big gate that leads into Mordor, which is the land of evil in Middle-earth. And Talion and his family are murdered on the gate by some of Sauron's top guys, the main one being the Black Hand of Sauron. So then Talion resurrects and is bound with the spirit of an elf ghost, and the elf doesn't remember anything about who he was, and the story of this game is about discovering who that elf person is and how he changed to Middle-earth, discovering why the souls of Talion and Mr. Elf Ghost are bound to Talion's body, and getting revenge on the Black Hand. So there's some really great acting in this. First off, Troy Baker once again does an amazing job, and so do all of the other actors. There are some actors who play the roles of characters who are actually in The Lord of the Rings, but they are different actors from The Lord of the Rings. Like, for example, for Gollum, it's someone else. It's not Andy Serkis, but that actor still sounds a lot like Andy Serkis when he's Gollum, and it's definitely good enough for this game, and Gollum sounds great in it. The main story is pretty simple, but it is really interesting for a Lord of the Rings fan. And even if you aren't a fan, you could get into this story. Although, as I said, it's just a simple revenge story, really. There's not too much other stuff going on. But if you are a fan of Tolkien's work or Peter Jackson's movies, there are a lot of things that tie into The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings that happen in this story, and that was really cool to see. So at the start of the game, there are a few tutorials, and I like the way that they were presented. But at the start of the game, a lot of stuff is really just thrown at you with a bunch of different controls and moves you can do and information on just how to play the game, and that can be really overwhelming. I was really confused and I died a lot because you also start off kind of weak in the game. But what is really awesome about this game is you become increasingly more powerful, and you really do feel that as you just start slaying orcs with all these different ways. But at the same time, it doesn't really feel like the game gets too much easier, and it stays very interesting with the combat and difficulty. So in Shadow of Mordor, there's something called the Nemesis system, which is like a roster of some higher up orcs in Sauron's army, and each orc is a randomly generated character who has their own traits, and really does feel like their own character, although they are randomly generated with their names even. And these orcs may challenge each other to duels or do different things to become more powerful and move up the food chain of Sauron's army. But what's really cool is that you can interact with this by fighting the orcs, and your actions with fighting them or whatever you do to them plays into this nemesis system, and it can make some of these orcs your nemesises. So if you fight one orc one time but then leave or something, then that orc is probably going to talk about how you ran away the next time you go to fight him. And that sort of stuff is really cool, and it naturally creates these stories just in your mind of what you're doing and fighting these orcs that's not even a part of the main story. And honestly, the main story is good, but the best stories do happen with the Nemesis system and just things that naturally occur. So the combat in this game is nearly identical to the Batman Arkham games, but I would say that it feels even better. It takes a lot from the Batman Arkham games, like the counter and attack and stun, but it does feel like a totally new experience. Especially using a sword to violently kill orcs really does a good job of separating it from feeling like Batman. Now, in some parts of the gameplay there are a few quick time events, but they didn't seem to be that bad because it gives you some time to know that you are about to have to press a random button as soon as you move something into a circle, and it honestly wasn't bad at all with that. And there are tons of abilities that you can unlock for Talion, and I haven't even got all of them yet, so there are a lot out there. Some of them you get by doing things in the story, and then some of them you get by doing free roam things and leveling up Talion. So this game is an open world game, and I would say the open world map of Mordor, although it doesn't have all of Mordor, I think that the open world is a good enough size for the game, although I do think it could have been a bit bigger, but that's not to say that there isn't enough to do with the Nemesis system and the side missions and the collectibles in the game. All of that makes Mordor, although being the place of death and evil, a very living and breathing world. Also, with the story missions, I like that you can pick which order you do a lot of them in. That is something that I haven't really done in a game since the first Infamous game, and that triggered a little bit of nostalgia for that game in my mind, as in some aspects, Shadow of Mordor actually reminds me a lot of the first Infamous game, and I really like that, and I'm sure that wasn't even intentional at all, because the first Infamous game is not very popular. Also, this game has an awesome soundtrack. It's not the same music from The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit for some reason, but it's really good own music. And I know that the things I'm saying right now are kind of in random order, but one more thing that I did want to say about the Nemesis system, which is that all of the orc killing and making Nemesises with the orcs... Wait, is it Nemesis or Nemesi? I feel like it's... I don't know, actually. But anyways, that kind of makes you forget that Talion is going out for revenge, and it makes you forget the main story of the game while you're making your own, which is kind of weird. It makes the two stories, sort of, multiple stories, not really compatible, but it wasn't a major problem. So here are my final thoughts on Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. Before this game came out, I expected it to be mediocre and not very good, to be honest. But then I played it and I found out that it has some of the best combat in any game that I have ever played. And even though the Nemesis system isn't perfect, it is quite revolutionary and awesome, and it fulfills one of my video game dreams of what would be so cool if like that was in a video game. Now something like that finally is. Also, I'd say that I've never experienced a game quite like Shadow of Mordor because of the Nemesis system, and I really do hope that other games start using something similar to where you feel like you naturally have an effect on some other characters in a game, or, you know, something similar to the Nemesis system. So yeah guys, that is my review of Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. I really liked it, even though the main story, it's alright. It's not the best ever, but it's good enough. Also, I'd say that this is the best PS4 game that is not a remaster or a port from last gen, or even further back, because I've been playing Grim Fandango. But yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed. Go buy yourself Shadow of Mordor. I think that would be a wise purchase, and have a great day.